Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Militello, and I am the director of the NEC MFA program in creative writing. We're really excited to see you tonight and to be able to talk to you a little bit about the program, have you meet a few members of our community, and then we're really looking forward to having you ask some questions as we get to this into the second half of the session. So as I said, I'm Jennifer. I use she, her pronouns. I am a poetry and nonfiction faculty member in the program. In addition to directing the program, I started with the program as a faculty member in 2015 and then took over as director in 2017. We have some other members of our community tonight, Casey Walker and Jillian Roster, who are both in admissions. If you have started your inquiry or application process, you may have communicated with them already. We have Moses Utomi, who is another faculty member who will be chatting with you tonight. We have Sam Wright, who is our admin assistant for the program and also an alum of the program. Brianna Bennett is another alum of the program, and then Steph Yun is a current student. So you have a whole array of people to chat with and ask questions of as you're here this evening. So I'm just going to start by talking a little bit about the program in general. The NEC MFA program is one of the oldest low residency programs in the country. So it started in 2002 as a poetry only program and has since really grown exponentially. And as you may know, we now have an array of different genres: fiction, nonfiction, writing for stage and screen, YA, dual genre. One of the things that's really exciting about the program is that we think about genre as a really fluid sort of part of the writing process. So we have poets who come in and end up writing flash nonfiction. We have fiction writers who come in and end up doing a few chapters in verse. We really like to think about the literary process as a very creative and fluid process. And so the way that your projects are framed for you are the way that we kind of think about them. We have David Ryan dipping in as another faculty member, so he'll be chatting with us as well. So a really exciting approach to genre, a really exciting approach to a personalized MFA program. Because we are a low residency MFA program, each of our semesters starts with an in-person residency on campus. So we are together in person on our beautiful New Hampshire campus with our covered bridge twice a year in January and July for 6 to 10 days. We are a very close-knit community. So because we're able to keep the program small, everyone knows everyone. We have an incredible time during our residencies. They are very intensive. So workshops, lectures, readings, meals together, social hours in the on-campus pub, a really intensive time where we're all together with other writers, which we love because we all feel a little bit strange in the world as writers, and we get to come together with our people, and we really love that time. We cherish that time. And then the other thing that happens during the residencies is each student is assigned their mentor for the semester. So you have the opportunity to request to work with a different mentor every semester. And then together with your mentor during the residency, you make a study plan. And this is one of the other amazing things about having a low res program in this way. You are really deciding what you are working on. So some people come in and say, I am writing a novel. I have a very specific project. Here's what I would like to use my 2 years in the program or my 2.5 years in the program for. And then some people are like, I just want to become a better poet. I just want to learn more about the line break. I just want to read a lot of nonfiction and just become better and and become influenced and learn from this community. So there's really a wide range of approaches to the time in the program. And once you are paired with your mentor, you can talk to your mentor about what your specific goals are. You create a study plan together. You determine what your reading for the semester will look like together. And then that partnership begins. So once you leave the residency, you are turning in 5 packets over the course of the semester of creative and critical work. So 4 packets of new work with your creative work and response to the reading that you're doing, and then a 5th packet, which is your revision packet for the semester. So you're getting feedback on each of these packets from your mentor. They happen about once a month, usually turned in the second Tuesday of the month. And it's really your chance, again, to sort of get that feedback, do some writing, get some feedback, do some revising, perfect some pieces. But also, of course, you're in conversation with your mentor throughout the course of the semester, getting advice, having conversations. Everything that happens with the packet, the kind of requirement for a response for the packet happens via email, but a lot of people also like to have a Zoom meeting with their mentor, after each packet or during every couple of packets, just to kind of touch base and chat. So that's kind of the basic overview about how the program works. As most MFA programs are, it's a 2-year program. You're working potentially with a different mentor each semester. If you have a mentor who you really love and you're doing great work with, you can kind of do a repeat semester with someone. That's always an option. And then the other great thing about the NEC MFA program is that we're one of the only low residency programs that also has teaching assistantship opportunities. So if you're interested in teaching at the college level, or just interested in getting some experience in the classroom, those opportunities are really fantastic as well. And it's a really great route for partial or full funding for the program. So I'll just mention that, and we can talk in more detail about, all of these things as we move through. I guess I will just leave it by saying that one of my favorite things about this program, again, is just that sense of community. It is a program that will really challenge you, and you will definitely be a better writer by the time you are done in the program, but you will also have a lot of incredible connections with other writers, a lot of really terrific systems of support in place for you. So it's just the best of both worlds. And it's a program that I feel really honored to be part of and really love wholeheartedly. So why don't we move on? David, do you have a few things that you want to say about the program as well?
Sure. Thanks, Jennifer. Hey, everyone. My name is David Ryan, and I teach prose. How's it going? I think what Jennifer was saying is just a couple of quick things that I would just amplify. The combination of rigor and support is really interesting. I'm seeing my daughter now is going to a high school that has that, where their expectations are really high, but the kids are like cocooned, and the moment they feel that they're having trouble, there are support services to sort of swoop in and keep them guided through this. And I feel that a really good MFA program, and not so many, have that same sort of vibe that I think ours has. And so you're going to be learning more because we'll be asking a lot of you, but also you will be supported in such a way that it won't feel any different from anywhere else you might have gone. I really believe that. I've been through a low residency program myself, and I know that, I've taught at residential programs and that sort of thing. And I feel like there's something about the low residency program, and in particular this one, that's just sort of um, surprisingly effective at making you a better writer. Um, And I think if that's what you're coming to a program for, I can't recommend a program more than this one. If you're coming for professional credentials, you'll have an MFA, and so that will be covered as well. But then the other thing, and this is sort of related, is that these residencies, and there's some students here right now, and I think you would agree, the residencies are really a chance to realize that you're not alone, that you have these relationships that over the 2 years are going to develop and become stronger and more supportive. And you're going to leave this program, first of all, with, I don't know, 7, 10 years of things to unpack in terms of what you've learned. You don't graduate from this program and be like, okay, now I've learned everything. What you learn is just how much now you have been given that you can open up and step into and start really using. It's a commencement because you're beginning, right? But this program will give you that sense of a foundation from which you can sort of leap off into. But at the same time, you'll be leaving with friends. You'll have friends that you didn't have when you came in. The best man at my wedding was somebody I met in a low residency program. And I see the connections between you guys. I see you. Um, some of the students who are here on the screen, you just see how these friendships develop. And over the course of a sometimes intense 5 to 10 days, depending on the residency, you just need each other. You need to communicate with each other. You need to learn stuff about each other, and it's almost a more intense friendship that develops because of the compressed time frame in which you're thrown together. So I think I can't recommend a program more than this, and I can tell you that honestly, from somebody who's actually been through one like this, and who teaches in different places, um, I I'm certain that I learned more in a low residency program and would have learned more in this one than I would have learned at a residential program. Just hands down. I've seen it now from both sides. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks so much, David. Yeah, and just a few things to kind of jump off of what David is saying. Um, we have we have students who are meeting to workshop their work on Zoom outside of the kind of parameters of the class all the time, which is, I think, kind of a testament to kind of what's happening. And also, people ask me all the time, is this a program where I can have a full-time job or I'm raising kids? Like I have an intensive life outside of the program. And this program, the low residency model, is really built for that. So we're here for you. We understand you have a lot of stuff in your life. It's going to be an intensive experience, but it's going to be something that your life can kind of accommodate. So, Moses, hi, would you talk for a minute about your experience with the program?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add that David didn't just say very eloquently. But I think that's kind of the core of it. You're going to get a experience in writing that is not something you'll get a lot of other places. You'll get I mean, we have amazing faculty, we have attentive faculty. You're going to get really hands-on training in exactly what you're interested in. But the biggest perhaps takeaway I think is the community of support that exists here. My MFA I had a pretty nice MFA experience, but I think for a lot of people, I've heard across MFAs from a lot of people say that it was a little competitive, or people felt like if one person came up, the other people were in some way losing, and I really don't see that here. It's extremely supportive. It's extremely generous. Um, the the kind of family that they seem to form every semester. I mean, I don't know if I mean, Jennifer is very great at selecting students and admitting people, but every semester there's this sense of home that arrives that makes it very easy to hang out with each other and do karaoke with each other and continue to support each other through the rest of your writing careers. And I think that's really an invaluable takeaway.
Yeah, thanks, Moses. I totally agree. I mean, it is somehow, I mean, it's got a kind of family magic to it. I mean, we do stay on campus together in the dorms, during the residencies. We eat our meals together. We do some karaoke by choice. You'll never be forced to do any karaoke, but it is just just really a kind of magical time. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are not a competitive program. So we do believe in supporting everyone. And we are your community even after you graduate. So I am constantly talking to alums about opportunities for teaching, publication. Once you connect with the faculty here, you have us in your professional corner well after graduation. Okay, so let's chat with some alums. Maybe we'll start with Brianna, who has just graduated. I had to email Brianna and say, hey, you're an alum now. Do you want to come hang out with us and chat with some people? So, do you want to talk a little bit, Brianna, about your experience?
Sure. First of all, can you all hear me? Excellent. First, I just want to say I really do love and miss the program. Being an alum as I'm graduating just in January, you definitely feel the difference. But what I want to really hone in on is my why for going for an MFA program, because I think that's what's really important is when you're trying to find the program that's right for you, even though this program is
We lost Brianna. Brianna. Oh, there you are. You're
Yep.
back.
Okay.
We lost
Good.
you for a second.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm back. Just because I graduated, I'm still able to participate in the weekly sessions because even though you graduate, you're not excluded. But I joined this program because I was in a writing community for many years. I actually run a writing group and I had started feeling very stagnant in my writing. And I couldn't figure out why I was feeling so stagnant. So I really just wanted to grow. And I think what this program does is it forces you to grow. I've had Moses and Jennifer as my mentors when I was in the program, and they are both drastically different as mentors, but both forced me to grow as a writer and be more adventurous with my writing. I was a dual genre student because I did not want to choose between prose and poetry. I love them both equally. And while searching, I would have to say there's only probably like 5 programs in the nation at the time that offered dual genre. So I wanted to make sure I had something where I didn't have to choose. Going to David Ryan's front about great, you have an MFA after. Before I joined the program, I was a special educator for about 7 years. And now that I've graduated, I've gotten my first adjunct position. So I'm teaching English composition at university, and I'm also a GED instructor. So I was able to go to the career change and get on the path that I want for my professional career while improving as a writer and just building like the life that I want with the community that I built while here at the program. Because no one's necessarily coming at you. And I'm constantly in group chats with people saying, this is what I'm doing now. And all I get are congratulations. And I check in on them and I'm like, you can still do this with the program. You got this. It's a wonderful experience. But really remembering what your why is will definitely help you as you're going through.
Thanks, Brianna. Speaking of getting your first adjunct position, I just had this memory of being on the phone with a recent alum and having to pull over to the side of the road so that we could talk because he was going in for an interview for a full-time professor position. And he was talking about, like, what am I going to wear and what are they going to ask? So I pulled over to the side of the road and we had this conversation. This is the kind of program that this is, right? We want you to be doing whatever you want to do after the program. We want to get you to where you want to be. We have, really just incredible success stories that are just amazing. And he did get the job, which was really fantastic. It's Brent, you guys know. Brent has got that great teaching position now. All right, so Sam, do you want to chat for just a few seconds and say hello?
Oh yeah, me. Hi. I'm Sam. I'm the admin assistant for the MFA program, but I'm also a an alum. Um, yeah, definitely. Just I want to echo, especially what David was saying earlier about this program it focuses on independent work, but also with a great support system. So you get like the best of both worlds. You get to focus on what you want to like. If there's something you want to work on with your writing in particular, like you can take that path, and then your mentors will support you on that path. You get all these different perspectives coming in, like through the peer workshops, and the community is just like we've been saying, like very close. And you, even if you leave the program, you don't really like leave the community. I still remember going to a reading for someone who had just graduated from the program and published a book, and I walked into a room like full of people that I recognized because there were other like students and former students that came to support. And yeah, it's really great.
Thanks, Sam. Totally agree. Um, okay, and then Steph is a current student. So, Steph, do you want to just say a quick hi and then we can transition to some questions?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Steph, and I'm in my last semester actually of my MFA, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I really love this program, and it has really moved my writing forward so much in all the ways that I wanted and all the reasons why I wanted an MFA, but specifically a low res, right? A lot of it is the amount of one-on-one attention that you get, and we have phenomenal faculty. And but it's also just a really fun time. Like it's a mix of a lot of things. Like back home, I guess a little bit of context for me, like I have been in writing communities for a while, but particularly multi-genre writing communities, because in my case, I'm a poet, but I always felt like the spaces where I grew the most were in multi-genre ones because of all the different types of perspectives you get just by being in conversation with other people, even if you're not in their workshop. I think that sort of cross exchange is really important just to expand your perspective. And yeah, it's a rigorous program, but it also reflects the life of a writer. Like once you leave the program too, you have to find a way to balance the rest of your life, whether you have work or family or other obligations. Like, you know, I have friends also who are in full res programs or just graduated and they love their programs. But when I would tell them about my time at NEC, they're like, dang, that sounds really fun. And I'm like, yeah, I wish you were all here. Like you would have so much fun, like especially during the residency times. Like it's intense. Like people are very serious about the craft and like giving very meaningful feedback and really wanting to bring the best out of each other, but it's also kind of like a little mini convention with all your friends, and it's just you on like a very beautiful campus. And it's funny, I was just looking at all of the work that I've written over these past 2 years in this program, because in your last semester you put together your thesis manuscript. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much more to work with than I thought. And I'm like, wow, I forgot I wrote that poem. That one was really good too. I'm glad it's I'm glad it's here. You put out a lot of work. You do so much analysis, which I kind of learned through friends. Actually, not every program necessarily has you doing this amount of analysis and really thoughtful kind of contemplation of what you're reading. Like it really pushes you in a lot of different ways, but I think I'm a much more like dynamic and interesting writer. Like I came in with like my style, which is great, and now I'm like my writing's getting weird, and that was like a really fun surprise. Like it's been a huge development as a writer, but as a person. So I can't really express how much I love this program without taking up the whole hour.
Thanks, Steph. This program loves you too, of course. Um, Yeah, I think one of the things that Steph just mentioned that obviously you also want to think about is that last semester book length thesis project. So you will leave the program with a book length collection of either, a manuscript of poems, a novel, a book of nonfiction, or significant polished pieces that you've kind of put together and compiled that are really finished pieces. So it doesn't have to be a coherent sort of narrative book from beginning to end, but it is a showcase of your polished work that is potentially ready to go out into the world in some way. And I think that idea that, people kind of really are in a position to start right from the program. People are going out into the world, finding teaching positions, publishing some work, doing some readings, seeking agents. So it's just so exciting to see. One thing I always note is that students who I don't work with personally, I always see them sort of read at the student reading their first semester. And then always when I see them read for the graduation ceremony, their final reading, I'm always just like blown away by the degree to which their work has changed. So just again, such a gift to be able to be part of it. Okay, so we're happy to take some questions. You can either unmute and ask a question, or you can pop it into the chat. If you have questions about the application process or the specifics of the program or teaching assistantships, we have people here who have done teaching assistantships. So please let us know how we can help.
Hi, this is Heather. I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I'm not on video. Uh, but um, but I'm curious to hear more about the kind of, I don't know if it's hybrid. I mean, about, I'm a poet, but I've also been, a writer, editor of other stuff for a long time. But I want to concentrate on poetry. But I'm curious to hear more about how those things blend and what the parameters are.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in the program, both for kind of cross-genre work and also for sort of thinking about the different roles of the writer as well. So, just in terms of the editorial piece, I'll just say we do have the Henniker Review, which is a literary magazine at the college. But in terms of the work, because you are kind of coming each semester to your work with a really individualized perspective and point of view, you can go anywhere. And I think a lot of this has to do with the people that you choose for your mentors each semester, and then your framing of the semester's work through the study plan. So it's totally legitimate to say, I am a poet and here's the kind of work I want to reach toward. I want to try and do some prose poetry. I want to try and do some lyric essays. I want to work with someone who has a little bit more of, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of kind of cross-genre faculty who have worked in different genres. So nobody is saying you are supposed to be doing anything. You are really deciding what that work will look like, and you are able to frame that with your mentor each semester because your mentor will change each semester, but you're also able to select whoever you want to work with so that and you'll kind of get a sense after that first residency of what different people are doing and where they're coming from through all the different workshops and lectures. And then you kind of chart your path from there. And sometimes we have people who stay in a genre and sort of, as I said, sort of reach out. Sometimes we have people who start in fiction and then are suddenly like, wait, I'm a nonfiction writer, or people who start in writing for stage and screen and end up adding fiction as a second genre. So there's a lot of flexibility purposefully built into the program. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. And just for the record, I don't know if it's helpful to know, but I've done maybe 6 or 7 workshops at Maine Media with some really awesome people, and they are the ones who recommended your program to me. So just thought I'd mention that.
Great. Thank you. That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Okay, Richard, I see a hand up, and then we'll do Angel after that. Richard.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of your writing, Jennifer. I've been enjoying this wonderful book, and
Oh, thank you.
she didn't pay me to plug it, but if you haven't read this book, uh, the Pact, I really like the language, the use of religious language. I grew up in a very rigid religion, Catholicism, and then went from the frying pan into the fire in my teen years into fundamentalism. And you repurpose religious language in this book to describe kind of the dark corners of the family in a really interesting way. So the quality of your poems is one reason I'm interested in this program.
Yeah.
So I'm not just flattering you, but I really love this book. Um, I did have a question. Was I think about the teacher assistant things? It's a pretty simple question. Is that online, or would you have to be on campus to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for answering it. Because we have students coming from all over the country and sometimes internationally, we've had students come from France and Malaysia who have been in the program. Everything can be remote for the teaching assistantship. And there are two types of assistantships. Some assistantships are actually acting as instructor for online courses, 7-week online courses at the college, courses such as first year writing or introduction to creative writing. But then we also have assistantships that are kind of more traditional, where you are remotely helping with in-person first year writing classes that are taught by someone else. So sometimes we have students in the program who have master's degrees or PhDs, have already taught at the college level, and really want that kind of extra teaching option. And then sometimes people are like, well, I've never taught, and so I'd love to kind of dip a toe in this different way, and that's an option as well. And both of those options provide the tuition remission, so partial or full tuition remission for the program. Thanks for that question, Richard.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, great to meet you. Angel, hi, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you. I just had a couple quick questions about the dual genre programs. I'm very interested in that. I write fiction and I'm writing poetry. And I have two projects in progress. So does the dual genre program, does that add time to the degree? And then typically for the dual genre students, what do they end up with at the end? Do they end up with like a chapbook of poetry and like some, work in their fiction novel? And then just for the application, if we're trying to submit for the dual genre, is there like some kind of formal format that we need to do to differentiate between the two samples?
Yeah, those are great questions. Thank you for them. And I'll talk a little bit and then I'll let anyone else who wants to talk, if there are students or faculty members who want to weigh in on this. So the dual genre option does mean one additional semester of work. And so you are working in your primary genre for semesters 1, 2, and 4, and your secondary genre in semesters 3 and 5. For the application process, we usually recommend that people have a more substantial writing sample for their primary genre and then add a slightly shorter amount of work for the secondary genre. But then in terms of the thesis, it really is up to you and your mentor to decide how that is handled. So the thesis will contain both genres, whether you keep those separate and have a kind of big section of your primary genre and a smaller section of your secondary genre, whether those are interacting in some way, whether they're blended. It's something that, as with most things in the program, is really individualized, and you and your mentor really decide how that is framed. Does anyone else want to kind of pitch in on anything about dual genre experience?
I can.
Thanks, Brian.
So what I think is so interesting about dual genre is I'm very similar to you, where my primary was poetry and my secondary was fiction. There have been students in the past, a lot of my friends, that have submitted either short story collections and a chapbook, whereas others have done a hybrid collection of poems and essays. I did a novel in verse. So I decided just to submit one thing that uses the storytelling elements that I learned or enhanced with fiction writing, but I did it all with the things that I learned from poetry. So I just submitted one thing. There is a page count requirement for each. So what I did for mine is, since I did a novel in verse, I took the page requirement and I split the difference. So it was more than what was expected for poetry, but less than what was expected for prose. And I submitted that as my thesis manuscript, since again, I didn't want to choose. I like them both. And it does add an extra semester, like Jennifer said, but trust me, it's worth it. what I ended up doing for my extra semester is I was working with Moses for my last one. And since that was fiction, but I was also working on my thesis manuscript, I submitted new fiction work while also finalizing my manuscript. So I still got new work in while he reviewed my revised work that I was actually going to read for graduation.
David?
I just wanted to add that I think Jennifer had already mentioned this, but I think most of the faculty, you can come to them with whatever you want to do with them, and they are entirely conversant in anything else you want to talk about. Like, I think that I write nonfiction and fiction, and publish both pretty regularly. Uh, I read a lot of poems. We're all a community of poets in a certain sense. I think that's the other thing that's sort of great is you're not going to be horse blinded in one semester with one particular genre because that's what you're getting. I think it's a pretty open-minded and versatile group of people you'll be working with. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, thanks, David. Steph?
Yeah, so I'm single genre, but something that's really cool, as I've talked with my friends who are dual, is that, in addition to like you pick your mentor and then you work in your genre for that semester, you also get to sit in on multiple workshops. Like for me and all the other poets, we've been sitting there like, what do they do in the fiction workshop? Like, we would love to just be a fly on the wall and hear the way that they talk about stuff and like, stage and screen and nonfiction. But like, if you're somebody that is dual or multi-genre, you get to have those different kind of approaches and experience and like see the types of perspectives or what kind of focal points there are. I mean, like I've heard people in fiction talk about like, yeah, we're looking at plot, we're looking at, dialogue, we're looking at flow. And I'm like, we're talking about commas and line breaks. And it's interesting when you talk with your peers, not in the workshop, but like while you're at residency and just like hanging out like between events or like eating at the lunch table and like hearing people talk about process, it's fascinating. So, and I will say I have known people at other programs in general where they're like, yeah, there is kind of like a dual genre option, but it's more so that you can take classes in another genre, but you're working with faculty and you're amongst peers who are like actively cross genre and publishing cross genre. I think that's a really key distinction just based on, conversations that I've had with people in passing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think that, again, that fluidity, right? I mean, we have people come in as dual genre rarely, and then someone will say, oh, you know what, I'm really focused on this genre and I want to just do that work. Sometimes, and more often, we have people say, I want to stay an extra semester. I'm going to add a additional genre so I can kind of experiment a little bit. Lily, did you have a question? Hi. Oh, you're muted. Hi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I we were supposed to meet tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah, can I ask some questions here then?
of course,
Yeah.
please.
So, as Steph was mentioning about they regularly you guys publish, where can we read? I mean, each author, if I know the name, I can try to find their website or something. But through your school, is there place we can read some published work?
Yeah, so I would say if you go to the website of the program, we have extensive bios, both of faculty members, but of also some recent alums. And those recent alums, most of them, there's a link to a website or to some of their work. And you can do, if there's not a direct link to work, there's a quick Google search that will get you there. So, um,
Thank you.
of
And
course.
another question is that what's the workload like? It's going to be semester, 4 semesters, so summer is going to be off. And for credit wise, each semester, 12 credits, something like that. So 12 hours in campus, something like.
So the only time that you are physically required to be on campus is during those residency periods, and then everything else is done remotely. And so so the only kind of credit load we do, obviously you're going to register for classes, and we have a very funky system where you're registering for two 12-week kind of courses every one semester, which you don't have to think about it all now. But the coursework is simply everything you do at the residency when you're physically on campus in July and in January, and then the 5 packets of work that you're turning in about once a month to your mentor and receiving feedback on. So there's no in-person requirement for most of the semester for the low residency program.
Okay, so you can be out of country or anywhere, you can still be working, and
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and there's no real-time requirement either. So there's no like class time where you have to be present either. You're just turning in the work by the deadlines.
So given this, as we are working, it can be anywhere. We are working, turning our work and then getting feedback. What is the prereq for this program? Like people come from different background. Like if you're not from writing means you're not from creative writing or English or any literature background, but have been writing. Is it like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the most important part of the application is the writing sample. We have people from all sorts of different backgrounds who have all sorts of different life experience and who are working all sorts of different jobs. And what we want are writers who are really committed to the writing life and whose work has a lot of potential. We don't, sometimes we have people coming into the program, as I said, who have PhDs and are teaching at the college level and have published some work. That's great. But we also have a lot of people coming into the program who have not yet published and who are just doing some terrific writing and are really interested in kind of committing to the writer life and becoming better writers. And both of those are completely legitimate pathways to the program.
Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Angel, you have another question?
Yeah, sorry, real quick. What is the
Yeah.
acceptance rate for application?
Yeah. So our acceptance rate, probably I would say, I don't know, probably between 30 to 40% usually, sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower, really depending on how many applicants we have and how many acceptances there are.
Does applying as a dual genre, does that actually hurt your chances of being accepted?
No, absolutely not. One of the nice things about the program is that we have the support of the college so that we can keep the program at a certain size. So, a lot of low res programs have hundreds of people and no, people don't know each other. But what genre you apply in is definitely not going to impact your chances. We actually don't think of spots in terms of genre. So sometimes we have a much larger cohort of one genre or another. So it's really just about who's applying and what their work looks like. Okay, I had another hand up. Hi, no, all done? No question. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, I had a somewhat related one.
Okay.
Is there outside of the July and January immersive sessions, is there any benefit to living closer to campus? Because I'll actually be
So,
relocating to like within an hour's drive of campus. That's why I'm asking.
yeah, great. The only benefit that I would think is part of, as I'm kind of thinking about it, is that you do have the potential to do an in-person teaching assistantship. So we do have occasional in-person teaching assistantship opportunities and also sometimes writing center tutoring opportunities for funding, and those are only open to local people because you obviously have to be physically on campus. So that's a distinct advantage if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, we're happy to have you be anywhere.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Hi,
Oh, and Steph is saying you get to be close to the best ice cream shop ever. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I asked Casey this by email, but my other question is, can you speak any at all to what the financial aid potential is? I believe that federal assistance is available, but I would just like to confirm that.
Yeah, I can speak to this from my experience, and then if Casey or Jillian have anything that they want to add. In my experience, federal financial aid is definitively available. I will say that communication, as with most colleges with student financial services, is not always the most exciting thing that you will experience in your life. In other words, sometimes they are like, putting together a package, or they haven't gotten to that, or they haven't started packaging students yet. Just your kind of typical bureaucratic panic session. But I will say that I have never experienced a situation where a student applied for financial aid, did not receive a package, and for that reason was not able to come to the program. And sometimes it feels a little bit last minute, but my advice would always be just trust the process. As long as you've done your FAFSA, you've submitted it to the school. I'm happy to go to battle for you if you feel like the communication is not good. I'm always happy to touch base with someone in the Student Financial Services office for you. So you can always email me and be like, I'm talking to people and I'm not getting any answers. So that's part of what I'm here for. But my experience is that it may not feel like it's going to happen, but it will happen. Casey, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, absolutely. So to kind of go off of what Jennifer said, we do offer federal financial aid. It would be going through the process of filling out the FAFSA for that fiscal year, and then having your results sent to New England College. And that's kind of your big step. And then there is the step in the process of our financial aid office kind of going through everything, issuing awards. But yes, sometimes it can take a little bit, and we know that financial aid is a big piece. So Jennifer is a very big advocate for all of the applicants and the students. Both Jillian, excuse me, and I have relationships with financial aid as well. So if there's ever a question and you want to copy us on emails or email us and we can connect you with somebody, that's absolutely fine. But to kind of circle back to the very beginning, yes, we do offer financial aid. We kind of encourage students at the same time that they're applying for admission to potentially apply for financial aid, just so it can kind of like, if you're admitted, yay, and then the financial aid's kind of right there too, ready to kind of be moved forward with. So we always encourage both applying for admission and financial aid like sooner rather than later. But yes, we know it's a big deal. We know there are a lot of questions, concerns, nervousness, that sort of thing. So feel free to reach out if any questions come up, or if you can't get a hold of anybody, because we're across the street from their office, so we can just walk on.
All right, thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any last questions before I hand it over to Casey and Jillian just to kind of run through the application process one more time?
Is the financial aid for everyone or all the student, or is that like how do you know like how many percent, what's the percentage of students who get financial aid or who qualify for financial aid?
So the federal financial aid, that usually takes the form of loans. And so I think the majority of people usually qualify for that once they apply. In my experience, I'm not a financial aid expert, but I think that piece is usually pretty you're pretty likely to receive it. For the other pieces of aid, such as a teaching assistantship, we have an application on the website that you would want to find under the teaching assistantships and scholarships section. At the very bottom, there's like a little PDF. That's like the application for those teaching assistantships. And it asks that you also submit a resume. And then we have a few small scholarships as well that we always consider every applicant for along the way too. So no way to actually apply for those. The other thing I always say to people is that if you're going to apply for a teaching assistantship, sometimes mentioning it in your writing personal statement, your kind of personal writing statement, just that this is also one of the things that you're interested in about the program, just to kind of put it on the radar as we read the application. Okay, super. So I will just, Casey or Jillian, do you just want to kind of talk, do an overview of the reminder of the application process and the materials that are required?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I feel like I've talked to most of you either on the phone or through email, so it's really nice to put faces to the names I've talked to. Um, yeah, so I would say the admissions requirements are pretty typical of an MFA program. We've been talking about the writing sample being a key ingredient to your application. If you're doing poetry, that would be 10 to 15 pages of poetry. And then fiction and writing for stage and screen would be 20 to 25 pages. And of course, dual genre, we briefly spoke about that. You would want to submit a shorter sample of your secondary and a longer sample of your primary. And then there's your personal essay, which Jennifer mentioning wanting to be part of the TA would be great to include in that, along with any academic experience you've had in creative writing, professional, if you've been, I know a couple people I've spoken to are published. Um, and I believe someone I spoke to made a movie. I think it was Richard, yes. So anything you want to talk about creative facets in your life is great. That would be 1 to 4 pages. And then kind of the nitty-gritty stuff where you have to ask other people to retrieve it for you. That'd be 2 letters of recommendation from professional sources, and then your official college transcripts. We mentioned people have applied with PhDs and masters. We do like to see those submitted as well. So any kind of college experience you've had, we add those to your application. That's kind of the cut and dry, quick rundown of the application. Yeah, just I don't know if we're taking immediate questions right now, but if anyone had quick questions about anything I just talked about, I'm happy to answer.
I think the one thing I might just say is sometimes people have questions about letters of recommendation. So just to clarify, those letters of recommendation, you do give the email address for graduate admissions to the person who's writing the letter for you, and they email that recommendation letter directly to the college. But the other thing is that these letters of recommendation do not necessarily need to come from creative writing professors. So anyone who can speak to your ability to be successful in a master's program, or you're a terrific person. As I said, the writing sample and the personal statement, your desire to start a master's program, your commitment to the writing life, these are the important pieces. So letters of recommendation, get what you can. Sometimes people are out of school for a long time. We understand that. No worries at all. Nothing.
Yesterday, when I was logged in and I started when I got to the page with the letters of recommendation, I didn't click on upload for that, but it looked like, unlike other schools, that we were supposed to upload the application. It wasn't like a field that said enter the email address of the referee, for instance.
Right.
So maybe I had to click on it to get an email pop up. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
our application portal has been really funky with letters of recommendation. So what I would recommend you do, and I know like mostly you would add in that email and then it would be sent. Um, I would just pass the graduate admission email address. And Casey or Jillian, can you just put that email address into the chat? I would just email this email address to your recommenders and just have them send those letters directly to that graduate admissions email address.
Okay,
And
sweet.
that way you know that they have been received.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that confusion. We completely understand that the portal has not been cooperative on that front, so apologies for that. Okay, any other last questions? Sorry, Jillian, were you?
Mm. I was just gonna add, oh,
Sorry.
sorry. No, no, I'll let questions go first. If
Heather.
anybody has any
No,
questions, they can
yeah,
come to.
yeah. Sorry. Thank you. No, I was just wondering what's the typical and maybe this is out there on the website and I missed it, but what's the typical process turnaround time for admission decisions?
Yeah, so we try to have a decision within 2 to 3 weeks, if we can. And so one of the nice things is that we do have quote unquote rolling admissions. So once the application comes in, we begin reviewing it once it's complete, and you will receive an answer within 2 to 3 weeks after you have applied. The teaching assistantships sometimes have more moving parts. So if you apply for a teaching assistantship, that may take a little bit longer to get an answer. But we do try to go through that process of the admission review in a timely manner.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Of course. Okay, perfect. Well, we are just about at the hour. So I will just say I have put my email address into the chat and it's all over the website. So please feel free to reach out to me. We also have the email address for letters of recommendation. So feel free to grab that as well, but that is also on the website. If you have any questions as you are sort of moving through the application process, please let us know. And of course, you can reach out to the other faculty members who are here. David and Moses would be happy to take questions at any point. And Sam is our admin assistant, so Sam's in the mix as well. We're all here. We're happy to help you in any way. You can communicate with Casey and Jillian. And, thanks for being here. We look forward to reading your work and have a terrific evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.